Right. Yep, so it's started to record. So basically, we're going to meet today and just go through benchmarking just to make sure that everybody is 100% clear of what we're doing and how we're doing it. Some of you, this won't be new knowledge, it's just kind of a refresher. And for some of you, it will be completely new. So we thought it would be a good chance to bring everybody together and go through it. So I've kind of tried to split it into subsections so we can go through each part. So why do we need to benchmark? So basically, you've probably seen this before. This is called the Scarborough Reading Rope, and it talks about all the many different strands of reading. And when you knit them together, that's what makes a fluent reader. So
sorry, Eve.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just quickly interject? Ryan's just come in saying that he's struggling to get in. I'm not sure if you can request him to join or he can't seem to.
Yes. Let's see. Yeah, I think I can invite him, can't I?
Okay, he's just gone back now. He's just left my room just to.
Yeah, I should have just invited Ryan. It says
Lovely.
It's Ryan, so hopefully.
Thanks, Eve.
No problem.
Sorry, thanks.
It's all right, fingers crossed he can get in.
Tori said the exact same thing. Could you call her? She's tried to join, but it's not working.
I can try. Or he should have the invite via the calendar. I know that Ryan didn't. I don't think I sent it to Ryan.
Tori said she pressed it, it wasn't working.
Well, I've invited her, so there she is. She should be getting in. Right, so the Scarborough Reading Rope. So down the left-hand side, you can see the strands that are woven in. So there's the background knowledge, so that's all the prior knowledge. And then we've got the vocabulary. So that's talking about our 3 layers of vocabulary as well. The language structure, so that's any grammar, so any sentence structure. Verbal reasoning, which is all about our reading comprehension, so the inference and deduction. Literacy knowledge, so that's looking at how in English we read from left to right, top to bottom, and that there's lots of different genres, so lots of different styles of texts like poetry, non-fiction, fiction, narratives, you know, all these different types that we teach. Sight recognition of high frequency words. Decoding, that's all the phonics, so that's talking about the segmenting and then the blending to make the words. And the phonological awareness is where we often start right at the very beginning, where the children differentiate between a sound, for example, this and this. And if you knit those two together, that becomes the language comprehension and the word recognition knit together, and that ends up being a fluent reader. And so from this is why we benchmark, because we can use this Scarborough Reading Rope, and from this we can work out which areas of the reading that the children struggle with. And it's even more important that we benchmark now when the children come back to us in March, because there will be some discrepancies. So some children will have made lots of progress. However, unfortunately, some children will have declined in their progress. So it's super important that we benchmark this time. So where do you find the information about the benchmarking? So when you go onto Staff Share, there is a reading folder. It's called Reading 2020 to 2021. And when you go in, it is absolutely jam-packed. So everything that we've been working on about reading is there ready for you. Everything is documented. So if you go on there, and I've split it into the how-tos. So how-to benchmarking. So when you click on that one, that will lead you to all the documents that you need to do the benchmarking. So how do you benchmark correctly? So inside that document, you will have, inside that folder, this is part of the benchmarking toolkit. So this is what you need to have with you as you are benchmarking. So every time I benchmark a child, I always have this with me, next to me. So nothing has changed. This is always as it has been, but it's really important that we go through it to make sure everyone's clear. So you have to sit in a quiet space where the children can focus. So you begin benchmarking on the next level than their previous benchmarking. You introduce the book, the title, and the author. You tell the child the names of the characters, and names are never marked as errors. So if you're reading throughout, or the child's reading throughout, and they keep getting the name wrong, that's not marked as an error. You ask the child to begin reading. You allow the child to give them time to read and to self-correct. If the child wants to use their phonics strategies to break down the word, then they can do. So if it was ouch and they said ouch, ouch, then you would take that as correct because they've segmented and blended and they've got the word. You would tick above the correct words on the reading record sheet, highlight and dot any reading errors, write each error above the correct word, record each error in the E section and write down errors that the pupil has made. So it's really important that we see what errors they've made. And we need to address each error at the end of the reading assessment. And this bit's really important that you pass on the misconceptions to the class teachers, because otherwise what happens, it just stays in the reading folder and we can never work on that. So we need to work together. And we calculate the errors, so you work out the percentage. You correctly complete at least 2 comprehension questions for Key Stage 1. I'll explain a little bit more about this in a minute. And Key Stage 2 need to have 100% of their comprehension questions answered correctly. If they get 95% and above correct and their comprehension is correct, then that's easy and they go on to the next level to benchmark. If it's between 90 and 94% with correct comprehension, that's what we call instructional and they stay at that level. If it's not, then obviously it's too hard for them. And then the new book and the new reading level book is given to the child. Okay, and we have to make sure that the new book colour is written in the journal and in the reading folder. So we write it so it goes home so the parents know if they've moved up the reading band, and also it needs to go in the reading folder. So if anybody picks it up, we can quite easily see which reading colour they are on. So this slide here shows now how all our books link together. So basically, when you're benchmarking, if it's a lilac book, so we're talking about nursery probably, then that is done verbally. So that's very much done through discussion. When a child reaches pink, so pink until yellow, we use the phonics bug benchmarking. So you do not use PM until they're on the blue levels. From blue all the way through higher, then you use the PM benchmarking scheme. And this document now, I've updated it, so it shows you the PM colour scheme, the Phonics Bug Club scheme, Rapid Readers, which is our reading intervention, national curriculum, and the reading ages. So everything is there. So if you're wondering about how they tally with each other, then it's on this document for you to have a look at. So what happens after reading band 30? So when a child progresses to diamond books, they're benchmarked as normal and they progress on to black books. However, in blue block, diamond is as high as they will go. They don't go on to black until they're in year 5 or year 6. So when they go into year 5 and year 6, they can then be black level readers. And if they're getting 100% comprehension and word recognition, then they can go on to become a free reader in year 5/year 6. Okay, and the reason that is because when they're a diamond reader, they're already reading age is about 11.5 to 12. So they're already reading above what the national curriculum would recommend for their age. So therefore, when they shift onto books that are above diamond level, we're starting to get into the more pre-teen type books, and some of the content probably will not be suitable for a child that's 8 or 9. So if anybody questions you, diamond readers is above age related anyway for that year group. So this is an example here of the Bug Club benchmarking scheme. So remember, this one goes from pink through to yellow readers. This is what you should be using. And it's very similar. You do exactly the same thing as what we talked about here, highlighting, dotting the words, counting them up, and it's got their comprehension questions. And then it's also got a space here for you to type in the comments. This is an example of the PM benchmarking assessment. You can see here exactly the same with the miscue analysis, and it's all added up. It's highlighted, it's ticked, it's dotted, the words are written above. This needs to be completed at the top every time. And then the questions, the percentage, and then a comment at the bottom. So some of you ask, why are the percentages so high to move up a band? So we have had children moving up before, and when they've come up, they've actually moved up to a book level, and they might only have accuracy of 62%, 64%, something like that. So just want you to have a look at this. So this would be a text. If I gave you this and you read this, but you could only understand the words that are not covered, then that would be a comprehension of 75% of the text. So I'll just read it. So is marking on a measuring. This involves establishing the relationship between of a measuring instrument and or which must be, for example, placing it in melting ice to see whether it reads 0 to check it has been correctly. So you can see there, that's 75% word recognition. There's absolutely no chance. If you gave that to me, I could probably guess a little bit about what it was about, but it would actually be a guessing game, and that's at 75%. So if you're letting children move up books that are 60%, 50%, you can imagine they're not going to understand what on earth they're reading about. Look at the difference when you jump from 75% to 95%. So something is marking a scale on a measuring instrument. This involves establishing the relationship between indications of a measuring instrument and standard or reference values which must be applied. For example, placing a thermometer in melting ice to see whether it reads 0 to check it has been something correctly. So you could you have a lot more of an idea of what this text is about. You could answer some basic questions. And there it is. That would be if you got 100% correct. Calibration is marking a scale on a measuring instrument. This involves establishing the relationship between indications of a measuring instrument and standard or reference values which must be applied. For example, placing a thermometer in melting ice to see whether it reads 0 to check it has been calibrated correctly. So therefore you can see there's a really big difference between 75% understanding, word recognition, 95%, and then 100%. And when I read this a few weeks ago, it actually really struck home to me about those children that we think, oh, but they did really well, we'll just move them up. Actually, no, we need to be really strict with what we're saying. And here it is again. Here, if you're unsure, go back to this document. This is your key document for benchmarking. Remember, this is the one you need to have with you while you're benchmarking. And it tells you here again their percentages.
Eve, can I just clarify with you?
Yes.
Eve?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can I just clarify with you? You said that we start on the benchmarking above where they were before.
Yes.
What happens if they got less than 90% on the benchmark that they were put on before?
If they got, so for example, if they got 88%.
Yeah, or even less than 95%.
Yeah, so 95 would move up.
Would
you
redo them on that level?
Yes, I would. I would redo them on that level and then move on from there.
Yeah.
Just on that, Eve, you mentioned about obviously 95% or more they go up, and 90 to 94 they stay on the same level. There was no like clarification on below 90%. I know we've been told that we shouldn't be putting any children back once they get onto that level. But obviously, especially coming back from...
Yeah, if they need to go back, they go back. We need to be 100% honest.
Are we putting them back then at below 90% for the time being?
Yeah. If they don't reach 90%, we go back and we find one that they do, and we do a complete honest benchmark.
Would you suggest going back one level, benchmarking them again, and then if it's still below 90, just carry on going back one level at a time?
Yeah, absolutely, until they're on the correct level.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Eve?
Yeah?
What happens, a few of ours have been like 99% on their reading, but their comprehension, they've only got maybe 2 of the questions right?
Yeah, then they don't go. They don't move up, they stay.
Okay, thank you.
They would stay on the one before them because they've not understood.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question, Michelle. Yeah, so Michelle, this is what I'm just going to say now. So if a child is in EYFS and Key Stage 1, or a child who is reading at Gold 22 or below, so for example, a Year 4 child who's reading Gold 21, they have to answer at least 2 questions correctly. So EYFS and Key Stage 1 is a little bit different for their comprehension questions. However, all Key Stage 2 children, or anyone who is reading what would be classed as Key Stage 2 books, which is White 23 and above, have to answer 100% of the comprehension questions correctly. So if a child doesn't, if we're thinking about a Key Stage 1 child who doesn't answer those 2 questions correctly, or someone in Year 4 who doesn't answer all of the questions correctly, but like you say, Michelle, has got 99% or 100% on the word recognition, then they have to stay on that colour banding. They can't move up because they're not proving that they've got the full understanding. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this bit now, how do I record the benchmarking and where is it saved? So this one here, I know most of you know it, but just for new members of staff might not be sure where to put it yet. So on the staff share, there is a folder specifically for benchmarking. And when you click onto that, it will give you the option of the year. So obviously 2021. And then you just choose whichever year group you are. And then this is what it should look like. So there's just a few things that we need to just make sure that we're all doing. So this time you may have to go in and just tweak the top headings for me, please. So the first benchmarking that we did, remember when the children came back, no, sorry, we carried it over. So this baseline was what it was in when they came from the previous year group up. Then autumn 1. So if you just make sure for me that it says autumn 1 and then September in brackets, autumn 2 and December. And then obviously we haven't benchmarked in spring 3, but we will be benchmarking very soon. So then the next one you need to put is just spring 4 and then in brackets March for me, please. So I thought it saved automatically. So I did this one as an example for year 4, but when I went back in today, it hadn't saved it. So just make sure that it's saved as well, please. And then we just need to make sure that every pupil is added. So if you could just double check that every child in your class and year group is on the matrix. And that when we complete it, every pupil needs to have the benchmark data. And if a pupil is away, then they have to be a priority to benchmark as soon as they come back to school. Because basically, if we get their reading levels wrong, it affects everything that they do. So this is priority. And we have to have some people, their benchmarking looks a little bit different to this. And it always confuses me because this has always been the standard one. So I'm not sure what's happened over the years. But sometimes there's lots of blank spaces. Sometimes there's loads of black lines going through the middle. Sometimes I've had it handed in and it's got like a snipped document stuck over the top. And so we can't do that. We need to have it. Everybody's looking the same. And so consistency is key. So if you could just log on and double check your class and your year group for me, that'd be really good, because I'm sure you can appreciate when I get all the data in and I look at everyone's from nursery all the way up, it's like 450 children, and it's really hard when some's blacked out, some's missing, some information's missing, some's got something covering. If you could just really help, we need to make sure that we're all doing the same thing.
Sorry, Eve, can I just ask a question quickly?
Of
There are
course.
children in our table that aren't at the school anymore. Should we just take them out, or is there a way that to obviously put the two above and below it together?
I think you can take them out. If they're not at our school anymore, you can take them out.
Okay. Also, sorry, going back to the
No,
PM
definitely.
benchmarking, because we're not using the PM benchmarking for pink up to yellow, should
Yeah.
we take those out of our reading, our benchmarking folders, the ones that we have with all the books and the sheets in, just so they're not to confuse anybody that might.
Yes.
Or-
Yeah. If they're from the pink to the yellow, I would just replace them with the book club versions.
Yeah.
Louise, maybe
No
take
worries.
those things out. Yeah, you're right. Otherwise, it's just going to confuse people.
Okay, and if a child is absent when we're benchmarking, and a lot of the time we have, if they're absent on the Tuesday of
Yeah.
the last Tuesday of term, they're likely not to be back for the rest of the term. So should we just leave the space next to their names blank, or?
Yeah, we just type in like absent, and then we
Yeah.
know that they need to be caught up with.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And then, so when are we benchmarking again, and who will be benchmarked? So we can start benchmarking anybody who's in school from Monday, which should really help people. And then when the children come back in school from the 8th of March, we thought we would give 2 weeks for all children to be benchmarked. So you've got from there, you can start next week, which is really good because we've actually got quite a lot of children in school, so we can kind of get ahead of ourselves. And then from the 8th of March to the 19th of March, everybody else has to be benchmarked. So altogether, there's like 3 weeks to do it. And we've decided that all pupils from EYFS through to year 6 must be benchmarked this time round, because obviously we are expecting some children to be sadly going backwards in their reading, and some will be amazing and have flown. And year 6, even if they're classed as free readers, we want them to be just benchmarked. Fingers crossed they'll just do that one benchmark and then they'll be fine. And I am making some new benchmarks up for you for year 6, because obviously we don't want them to remember the one that they did from last time. And I thought if we could have all the data saved by 3 p.m. on Friday, the 19th of March, for me, please, because we have to start collating the data so we can obviously make the new reading matrix up, tailor the new interventions, and get the HLTAs timetables might need tweaking and all this. So we need the data by the 19th of March at 3 o'clock. What do you think? You think that's fine?
Yeah, hi. I've said to Green Block that obviously the children that I see I have interventions with, that I'm going to benchmark them as soon as they're in. I'm not sure if the other HLTAs would do that with the same children in their block, which obviously will perhaps give a little bit of pressure from
if
TAs.
You give them a list of who it is our
yeah, my block no, but yeah, just
that should really help people. I think so. Louise, is your hand up? I can't see your face. Sorry, I can only see little initials because.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, that was from before. I take it down.
That's okay. I was like, she's being very polite. She's got a little hand up. So, any questions about benchmarking? Anything else that you can think of that we've missed?
Eve, is there any way that we can put actually on the benchmarking format itself, like Azora said that she's going to benchmark her group, can we highlight those children in some way to show that they're actually getting that intervention?
Well, the intervention matrix will show that they're getting the intervention.
Yeah,
So
but even on the benchmarking form, if we could highlight that child, I know in the past, I think we've had like the SENs down at the bottom of the benchmarking form.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any, I know it's silly, but
not well, you could highlight them just so you know who like the HLTAs are benchmarking, but then the highlight will have to be taken off because we can't have any child looking like we're identifying them differently on the benchmarking forms.
Okay.
We've got the intervention matrix, so they're all interventions are on there, but on the benchmarking on the data we can't highlight any child as being different. No. So you could do it just so you know, but then you'd have to take the highlighting off.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, Eve, just quickly.
Yeah.
With the year sixes, you said that you're going to send up some new benchmarking. Is that just for the free readers? Because a lot of them have done the diamond and the black level quite a few times.
Diamond and black as well, I think. I'll do it for all of those higher levels, just because you're right. They're quite clever. They'll remember the answers.
That's fine. That's what I just thought I'd check, because I know a few of them have done them from year 5 and year 6. Yeah. So that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll make some new ones and I'll get them sent up. Well, as soon as I'll try and do some over the weekend, and then we'll get them sorted.
Sorry, this may be a silly question.
No, go for it.
But obviously, when you do make them, Art, is it possible, obviously, to have? I'm sure it would be to have a couple of the answers so that we're all kind of.
Yes, of course.
Because this conversation we had the other day is obviously some people's opinions on the correct answers with the reading comprehension can differ.
Yeah, good shout, Shane.
If we had your kind of the answers that you come up with for the questions that you create, at least then we're not like then kind of saying yes, that's correct, and then maybe Tori's idea of that answer a little bit different, or so it doesn't look like someone's being more lenient or harsh.
Yeah, of course. I'll try and do some answers as well.
Sorry about that.
No, it's a really good question, and you're right. I did think about that as well. Okay, right. So if I stop presenting from this, we should be able to now go on to reading folders. I'll just have a quick sip. Hang on. Can you see that? Class reading folders.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a similar format. I've kind of tried to break it down into question and answers and see. But like I say, just jump in if you've got any questions. And Shane, it's fine because no questions are silly. So just go for it. So class reading folders. So this one always asks me every year. People ask me, how many folders should I have? So we've now decided for sure you should have 2 reading folders. One reading folder is for your benchmarking and your reading or phonics assessments. And one reading folder is for your class reading folder. And I'll tell you what the difference is in a few minutes. So where do I find what should go in the class reading folders? So inside the main staff share reading folder, there is this subfolder, how to create reading folders. So if you go in there, everything that you need should be there. So I just thought we could quickly go through. Now, it doesn't really matter like what order you have everything in your folder, as long as you've got the main bits in your folder, it doesn't matter because it's your folder. So as long as you know your way around it. So this is the weekly reading log that we're using at the moment, and this will continue when the children are in school, or if we're in another lockdown, whatever. This will now be our weekly reading log. So if you can complete that, it's your choice. You can complete it via paper, or if you complete it via email, it's absolutely fine. We don't mind. And if you could pass it to Jess Atherton every Friday, like I say, by a paper or email, you just need to make sure it's complete for as many children as been in that week. And yeah, just tally it up. So how many paper reads, how many bug club reads, and then the total reads per week. So that needs to be done. And you need to have a copy of this in your reading folder. And I know it's a pain, but we need to have it because if we have some special visitors that come in, they want to see the paper evidence that we are tracking the readers. So we do this, and then you pass it to Jess. Jess does a really great analysis for me every week of each class, so I know exactly which classes have got really good book club and paper reads, and then from that then I can tailor and I do a little bit deeper data analysis, and I look at the children that aren't reading at home and look at how we can support. So it's really important document. Also in your folder there's this. So this is, Helen and I did this a few years ago now. It's a selection of questions to ask the daily readers. So sometimes people say, I don't know what type of questions I should be asking when I'm listening to a child read. Here are some prompts, and it's a really good tool as well for when we open up a game properly and we start to get volunteers and students coming in. And this is a really good sheet. If you have a copy in your folder, you can just whack it out and give it to them, and they can use that as a prompt. So this is all on the staff share. Then you should have this. So I've put both of them in, and actually thinking about it, there is an EYFS version of this as well. So EYFS need to have this version in. This is from the EEF. This is their literacy guidance. So it's talking about reading and writing. So really, because this is what we have based our whole reading pedagogy on, it's really good if you could read it at some point. You don't need to read the whole bit, because it's broken down into strands. So this is the strand for the Key Stage 1. So if you have, it's all on the staff share, so if you print this out, this whole document, and put that in your reading folder, and then if you have this one as well, I would pull this one out and keep it separate, because this would be your quick reference guide if anybody asks you about how to teach reading and the different steps. This is really a good tool to look at. So there is one for EYFS. This is the Key Stage 1 version, and there is the Key Stage 2 version 2. So this is all on a staff share. Remember, you can just print it off. Then onto the reading records. So every pupil must have their own reading record inside the class reading folder with a baseline reading comment. And so basically, when we do our benchmarking, you'll write the date in and you'll write what colour book they're on. And then we were thinking about this, and we thought it would be really good if you just listened to every child at least every 2 weeks or so. Just a quick 5-minute read, just check in with them and quickly write down what book they've read and the comments about their reading. Just because otherwise what happens is, if you take a really good age-related child or above age-related child for reading, they sometimes get missed. And then when we look back at their reading records, they've actually not been heard the whole time when they're at school. So it's really important. We think 5 minutes, just a couple of pages, just every couple of weeks is quite reasonable. And the daily readers have to be on this, obviously, every day. And it has to be, again, I'm really sorry, I know it's really pedantic, but this form, please, like no different versions of it. This one, because then it's consistent across and we can see progression. So these reading comment sheet, so there's reading comments for every single year group inside this file. Now, I know that the reading comments are quite long, but they're used as a standard, as a structure for us to base our comments on, so that I know we don't really do this, but we're moving away from really good reading today, well done type comments. So these comments should match the pupil's coloured benchmarking reading band. So for example, a pupil in my class in year 4 who's reading at the year 1 level, if I was listening to them read, I would look at the year 1 level comments and I would write a comment that's relevant from that year group, so it matches. And the reason why we do that is because these comments are matched exactly to the national curriculum. So we've not made these comments up. Helen and I again sat about 4 years ago and went through and wrote all these comments because they match exactly. And again, if we have any visitors who come into school and want to have a look at what we're writing, we need to make sure that everything we're doing is almost like ticking the boxes. It's going through and it's official. Do you know what I mean? We can't really deviate. And it's really good as well. So any volunteers, any students that come in, we can give them this sheet, and this is what they write in the pupil comments. And it's because when we get parents in stuff, sometimes we do get the really good read, very well done, or we get them where they really focus on the words that the children aren't reading, and that's not what these comments are for. So this is to be used as a guidance, and every single year group is in that reading folder from EYFS through to year 6.
Eve, can I just ask about the children that are going out for like the rapid readers and things like that with the HLTA intervention? Are you still expecting the TA in the classroom to read with them as well?
Yes, there will be. So on the intervention matrix, they'll still be down as a target reader. Yes, they will. So this is a document as well that you just need to be aware of. Starts from EYFS, and I've based it so it goes all the way through to year 7, and it's the progression of skills. So you don't need to know this off by heart at all, but it just kind of shows you, again, if I'm taking year 4 and I've got somebody in year 1, I can have a look and see actually what a child in year 1 would be reading for their reading comprehension and their word reading. So if you could print this off, it's good to have like the whole document in, and then you can easily flick through and see whichever child fits. You know, it gives us some idea of where to base where they are and what we need to be doing. Of course, you should have your intervention matrix in your class reading folder too. So when we've got all the benchmarking data back in, then there'll be a new one coming out. But for the moment, we will carry over whatever's on the Spring 3, we'll carry over into Spring 4 until we get the new data through. So then in your second folder, the benchmarking and assessment folder, people always say, but I'm not quite sure what to have in that one. So you should have your benchmarking records and a printout, diagnostic assessments, high frequency words, phonics, toe by toe, and intervention matrix. So I'll show you each one of these. Obviously your class matrix goes in both reading folders. Then here we've got the stages of diagnostic assessment. So your diagnostic assessment is if you have heard the child read and you're thinking there's something that's not quite right here, there's something that they're not getting. So before it comes to me and the reading team to think about how we can fit interventions around, you need to do this diagnostic assessment, please. So the first thing that you would do is the benchmarking assessment toolkit. So that would be, which you would have probably already done, to be honest, because you would have noticed something's not quite right from the benchmarking. Then you do the phonological awareness assessment. So I'll show you each of these sheets in a second. Then there's the phonics, decoding, segmenting and blending assessment, sight words, literacy knowledge, fluency rubric, and then you put it all together on the simple view of reading. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here, this is probably where you've thought something isn't quite right. So you need to have a copy of both benchmarking assessments in. So a copy of the children's benchmarking and then the data matrix. Then this is the fluency rubric. So the fluency rubric, you basically write their name, their date, their score, and you highlight the relevant parts, and then you add up the score. So that's I've just snipped it. But if you were to see the whole document, it would make sense because you add it all up and then there's space at the bottom for you to type it in or write it in. Then you would need to do the phonics screening check with them. So on the staff share, there is the 2019 phonics screening check there ready for you. This is under diagnostic assessments. So you've got the actual book and the screening check answer sheets. Sorry, the sun's in my eyes. Then this is the phonological awareness check. So this isn't anything new. This is just something that has been redone. So auditory discrimination, how are they hearing the sounds, counting the numbers of words in sentences, the syllables, the rhyme, etc. And it's just step by step. It basically you do is what the instructions say on the sheet for it. Then you would need to also have a look at the phonics assessments that you would be using from Phonics Tracker. So this is just one that I've just snapshotted from a year group that shows you, and you can identify which sounds it is that the children are struggling with.
Eve, sorry to interrupt. Is there a way to print out, just because obviously if we're having the Phonics Tracker data in our folder, can we print it out for just this single child so that can go in their section?
Yes, I think you can. I'll show you how to do that later. I do know how to do it. I just have to have a fiddle with it, but I do know. So I will show you how to do it. But yeah, ideally you would have like the individual child's in really, because it'd go in their pack. So yeah, you're right, Louise. Then this one is the concepts about the print. So this is really interesting because we just think that the children will know it, but sometimes it's as simple as where's the front of the book, where's the back of the book, where do we start reading? You know, are they able to follow 2 or more lines of print? Are they word by word matching? It's really interesting when you do this with the children. And then when you come through to it all, then you have this. Now this is called the simple view of reading. So basically you have a look and see, and you write which quadrant they would be in. So ideally you would want them to be in the upper right. So they would have good language comprehension and good word recognition. But from all that data, if you have a look through, you should be able to identify where you think they would be. So you would just write their name in and initial it and write the date in as well. Then when you've got all that and it's in a pack, if you just pass it to me or the HLTA in your block, and then we can go through it, and then hopefully from this data we can tailor exactly which interventions the children need. For example, if it's something there's no good, if it's comprehension, there's no good giving them arrow, because arrow would be more of the auditory sound. So you know what I mean, it really helps us to tailor where we need to be on it. Then this is again, so Louise, you would write for the diagnostics, you would need the individual phonics breakdown assessments, but you would also need every term you would need to have a copy of your whole class phonics and high frequency words assessments. So it's easier now to print it than it used to be, where we used to have to go all the tick boxes, because this tells you exactly what percentage they've got and exactly which words, which sounds they're struggling with. And then this one, some people have started this and others haven't yet, because it's easier when everybody will be in, but the toe by toe reading intervention. So I sent this through to everybody, and it's also on your intervention matrix that everybody had a copy of as well. So it tells you which children should be receiving this toe by toe reading intervention. It's really easy. You literally do what it tells you to do every day with the children. So you would put in the toe by toe pack, basically, because it's like a little pack that it is. So you just keep the children's pack in there, and then if anybody wants to have a look, it's just there, because I can see from looking at it, I can already see the data because it's tick sheets that you do, so I can work out the data pretty quick from that. And that, I think that would probably be about it that goes in your reading and benchmarking and phonics assessment folder. There's quite a lot there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to send the PowerPoint, and I'll also send out the video as well to everybody so they can have a look. But are there any questions? Because this is quite a lot of information to go through.
Sorry, I
that's
think that we can find the document in the staff share. Is that in as part of one of the how-to documents, or is it elsewhere? Are you able, if it is,
Jane?
You said about the document, we can find it in the staff share to be able to print off some of the things to add to our folders. Is that in the how-to folder, or is it somewhere else? Are you able to just like kind of tell us whereabouts to find it on the staff share?
It's all in the reading. It's all in the reading, and then when you click on the reading document, everything is split into the how-tos. So there's one that says how to create a reading folder. That's got everything. And then there's the how-to diagnostic, and that's in there, how to benchmark. So everything is, when you go into reading folder, you'll see it. It's all there. There is a lot in the reading folder, so you do have to scroll up and down just because it's a hefty document. So there's a lot.
Cool, thank you.
No probs. Anybody else got any questions?
Yeah, sorry, Eve, would you be able to send us this PowerPoint?
Yeah, I'll send it to you, and I'll send the video as well, Louise.
Sorry, I was having a wee when you said that.
That's what I'll send both because it's a lot to remember. Yeah, like I say, it doesn't matter which order you put any of these documents in, so don't be worried about it's different to somebody else's. It doesn't matter. It's just we need to have these documents in it, basically. Nobody's going to look at it and tell you it's in the wrong order. So does that help?
Yeah, really helpful. Thanks, Eve.
That's okay. So what we'll do is we're also creating a TA CPD package. So everything that we've been doing on a Wednesday, we are making up videos of it as well, and we're going to ask you to sit in your teams and go through all the CPD that we've been doing on a Wednesday as well, so that everybody is up to speed and we're all doing the same things. So this is just the first of the CPD package. So it's exciting. So thank you, everybody. 2:20, perfect timing. If you do have any questions, though, please just email me. Like, even if you think it's silly, it won't be a silly question at all. Okay, so just drop me a line and I'm there to help where I can. And if you think of anyone that hasn't made it, if you just tell them that I will be sending the video and the PowerPoint through. So they just need to check their emails. That would be great. Well, I'm going to end the meeting now. So take care, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. And well, everybody's in next week, aren't we? So I'll see you all next week.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.